Welcome Supercharger to the final demo video of this course. So thank you for following along so far, and I hope you've learned a ton and actually saw a lot of those things practically done inside of a design tool like Figma. In this video, I do want to demo a couple of things about dark interfaces. You learned a couple of things in the previous video already, but I just want to kind of stress them again. So one of the best examples of dark interfaces, in my opinion, is Twitter's. Twitter does have the benefit of their blue not being as saturated. So like if we inspect this color, you can see that it's like 68, 70 when it comes to saturation, and also brightness is at 90. So the same shade works really well on both the dark interface and the light one. It's just like a little note, because like the more saturated the color is, you actually do want to adjust for that saturation inside of a dark interface, because it's now not going to be on a white or a very light background, it's going to be on a dark one, and we're going to perceive it a little bit differently. Overall, when you look at all of the other things inside of the interface, you can really see that basically the content is the only thing that stands out, and usually there's just like a pop of blue for things that are interactive or like promoted. In the dark interfaces, they have two options. So one of them is going like full black, and it's really going to be useful if you're using it on your phone, because it does actually turn off all of the pixels, so it's not using as much power. But if you want a more subtle effect, again, it's not going to be using as much color as a white interface would, is they have like a branded version of the dark interface, which is really nice because it allows that branding of like blue being subtly like hinted at inside of the dark interface. But again, like the fully black version works as well. Now, one thing that you're going to notice, they do have these light dividers that they use on the light interface. On the darker one, they're more noticeable. So just something to keep in mind, like in here, the content really stands out, but in here, maybe some more visual breaks are needed in a dark interface. So they're kind of upping the value of some of these strokes. But yeah, when you're planning your dark interface, if you're ever going to have to design for one, first understand that it does take a lot of planning to do it correctly. And also when you do it, it's going to take a lot of like testing, trying things out and seeing if they work. Usually you're either going to go with one of these approaches, just like a subtly tinted dark background or a fully black one. Whatever you choose, just keep in mind that that you're going to have to adjust other things as well. So it's not as easy as just like reversing everything and it's going to work. In here you can see that on this one, they're not using like fully white for the text. It's just like 1 point of saturation and 98 of brightness. In here it might even be lower than that. Yeah, so it's 92 of brightness. So that's a noticeable jump in how bright something is. Because the background is darker, they also darkened the text a little bit so that the contrast is the same, but it's but the value is not the same. So like a 92 brightness versus 98 brightness means that there is like six points of brightness lower in this example, where the background is fully like black. And that's because you don't want to have black and white like really clashing on your interface. So something to keep in mind, you're gonna have to adjust everything on your interface just subtly so that it works in the context of a new background. And in here in practice, we're gonna take this light interface of an app that I quickly designed for the demo purposes in here, and we're gonna do two variations of it. So one of them is just going to be making everything that's light dark. So yeah, maybe just like in here, it does have like a subtle hint of purple, but not too much. Or we can just go like full black for this first example. And then we have to think about what we're going to do for all of the other ones. So one thing that you can do is use white and then just like set opacity to something like 90, 92, 95 for it to not be as clashing as it is right now. And the other thing that you can do is actually just like play with the right shade of color to get to it. So instead of using opacity, both approaches work. Figure out what is better for your design purposes, and also like if you need to discuss with the developers, like see what's doable, what's not, how you can do it in the easiest shape and form. So in here we have saturation at 70. Again, you might not have to do any adjustments with something like this, but you might want to take it down a step or two and maybe decrease the brightness a little bit for it to actually work better. So I'm gonna take this purple and I'm gonna apply it to both of these interfaces like this. 10%. Okay. So you saw me just quickly select two screens, go to selection colors, and quickly update it in all of the places. That's one thing that you can do. Another thing that we have in here, and if we consider this, it seemed like the background was darker and these two elements were, a couple of elements in here that are tappable are kind of above because they're white, and in elevation they appear to be higher. So one thing that you can do is you can grab the background color and just subtly push it towards like a lighter shade of it. I am going to adjust this as well. Maybe you want to add a little bit of a stroke so it's more noticeable of like what happens. You can use something that's just a little bit lighter. And then another thing that we need to do is turn this text into something like this. Oh, sorry, not the right one. Picking the shade in here. Okay, so now when I grab all of these, I can just quickly change the purple one into something like this. And in here, you can adjust the brightness to make it less noticeable like this. Okay, so with a couple of adjustments, we already did a lot of progress on this one. One thing that we do want to think about, again, shadows are probably not going to be as noticeable or as useful in dark interfaces. So you really need to think about elevation. And if we see these two elements overlap, it means that this element is obviously above it because it crops the one that's below it. So what we want to do is, instead of having this the same color, we're also going to adjust it a little bit and make it even brighter like this. And then I'm going to take all of these ones and just kind of color pick the colors that we have in here. Oh, sorry, this should just switch to white. And then the color that we have in here is going to be used for this, or we can even make it less noticeable by picking a shade that's somewhere around here. So again, we're trying to achieve the similar amount of contrast, so maybe going as far away as I did is not the smartest thing, but something like this. Yeah, so we're basically trying to make these as they were, like dark on light, the same amount of contrast in here. Maybe a little bit more subtle because light on dark is usually more noticeable. And that's kind of my logic of creating a dark interface from a light one. And in here, I do want to just quickly demo the same thing, because this is like an element that's overlaid over the first one. So think about, you click something and it opens up like a full screen model that covers the area of the screen where we previously were, where we had the navigation on the bottom. In here, we have to go back to get to that navigation. So this full screen model that appears, it actually is white because we wanted to signal that to the user. On dark interfaces, I don't think it's going to be that useful to make it like a little bit lighter, you can, and see if it's gonna work. And then what you would have to do is you would have to take these darker shades and just like make them full black. To me, I'd actually want to reverse that logic for a dark screen and just like make all of this really black, take all of these cards that we have in here, grab the background color that we use, so like this one, grab all of the white that was in here, and I'm not sure, maybe I'm just gonna keep that white. Honestly, it looks better. And here I might make this like 20% to make it a little bit more noticeable. And then this color, I think I'm gonna shift just to like a purplish divider color. Awesome. Let's take the style that we have in here for the all caps. Okay. In here, copying the style, pasting it in here. And I'm just gonna grab the color that was in here and color pick it from here to apply to all of these other areas. And yeah, to me that feels better than the reverse idea that you do have on the light interface, but it doesn't have to follow the same strategy when you're switching to a dark interface like this. One thing that's not working is obviously these purple names of the area. So to make those work, I'm gonna keep like a subtle purple saturation inside, but I am going to make it a lot brighter on the areas like this. And in here, this is one area where I forgot to do the same, because it doesn't seem to be working for the areas that need to be like legible. So I'm going to try maybe something like this for the navigation, maybe even a little bit lighter. Yeah, okay. And the other approach, I'm actually just not gonna recreate everything in here for the other demo. I'm just gonna copy this screen over to here, and I'm gonna use the background color in here as like a tinted version of this purple. Again, you're trying to find the shade of purple that has just like a subtle hint of purple inside, and I feel like it's probably somewhere around here. Let me switch this to white as well. And then I'm gonna have to adjust these because they're now gonna become a little bit lighter, just like this. Again, you don't want to have a ton of saturation, just enough so that it appears like it's the same color. This, and then this one needs to become, again, just a little bit lighter than everything else that we have. So yeah, this is all of the adjustments that you need to do. Again, not all of it, but this is the strategy that you need to follow when you're adjusting a light interface into a dark one, and just look at what you're doing, kind of test it around, see if it needs some more adjustments. And then when you get to a point where you feel like, oh, these 5 most prominent screens that we have in the app are actually working well in both light and dark interfaces, now it's time to kind of figure out what those rules are that you want to follow, document them, and kind of create the entire strategy for shifting from a light to a dark interface design. And again, a user might prefer this one versus this one. If you have like both options, you're going to allow them to switch between the two. And if not, if you're just going to be using one of these, make sure that it actually makes sense for the type of project that you're working on and for the type of brand that you are, to use a dark versus a light interface in your design. So yeah, thank you for following along all of the demos that you went through. Hopefully you've learned a ton and saw the subtleties that actually make color in UI design work better for the types of projects that you're going to be working on. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.